The scream pierced the elegant ambience of Lachelle, freezing every conversation mid-sentence. Jasmine Williams dropped her serving tray as she watched in horror as the small boy convulsed in his high chair, his face turning an alarming shade of blue. The billionaire beside him, Maxwell Stone, whose face graced magazine covers, and whose divorce had dominated headlines for months, stood paralyzed, uselessly shouting for help while his 3-year-old son choked on a piece of food.
"He's dying!"
Someone shrieked as the restaurant descended into chaos. Jasmine sprinted across the room, knocking aside a champagne cart. She had exactly 30 seconds before permanent brain damage would begin. The boy's eyes locked with hers, terrified, pleading, as she positioned herself behind his tiny frame. With one calculated movement, she performed the Heimlich maneuver, feeling the fragility of his ribs beneath her hands. The small morsel flew from his mouth, and he gasped a desperate, life-affirming breath. "Thank God," Maxwell whispered, his normally commanding voice reduced to a trembling whisper. But as color returned to his son's cheeks, the boy didn't stop crying. His wails escalated, attracting stares from the restaurant's elite clientele. The billionaire's embarrassment was palpable as he awkwardly patted the child's back. "I don't understand what's wrong with him. I've given him everything." Jasmine, still catching her breath, met Maxwell's eyes. "With all due respect, sir, he just needs a mom." The silence that followed her words felt heavier than the chandelier hanging above them. Maxwell's face hardened, a storm brewing in his eyes. "You're fired," he hissed, the words slicing through the air between them. What neither knew in that moment was that Jasmine Williams wasn't just any waitress. She was a pediatric psychologist who had lost her practice in a devastating lawsuit, one filed by none other than Ariana Stone, Maxwell's ex-wife, whose false testimony had destroyed Jasmine's career 6 months earlier. That night, Jasmine's hands trembled as she packed her meager belongings from the restaurant's staff room. Her former colleagues whispered among themselves, some offering sympathetic glances, others keeping their distance as if her dismissal were contagious. The restaurant manager, a kind-eyed man named Paolo who had hired her when no one else would, pressed an envelope into her palm. 2 weeks, severance, he murmured. "I'm sorry, Jasmine." Stone's influence. "I understand," she replied, swallowing back tears. "Thank you for taking a chance on me." The bus ride home was a blur of neon lights and rain-streaked windows. Jasmine pressed her forehead against the cool glass, remembering the little boy's face. For 5 years, she had built her practice helping children navigate trauma and loss. She had been good at it, until Ariana Stone had accused her of malpractice, claiming Jasmine had implanted false memories in her daughter during therapy sessions. The allegation was absurd, but Ariana's wealth and connections had ensured Jasmine's professional ruin. Now, by some cruel twist of fate, she had encountered the woman's ex-husband and son. The irony was almost too much to bear. 3 days later, Jasmine stared at her apartment's peeling wallpaper, nursing a glass of cheap wine when her phone rang. The number was unlisted, but the voice was unmistakable. "Miss Williams." Maxwell's voice sounded different, humbled. "I need to speak with you." "I believe you already said everything necessary when you fired me," she replied, gripping the phone tighter. "My son hasn't stopped crying. The nannies can't handle him. 4 have quit this week." He paused. "Please, I'll pay whatever you want." Jasmine closed her eyes, remembering the little boy's face. "This isn't about money." "Then what is it about?" "Justice," she whispered, more to herself than to him. Hours later, Jasmine stood in the foyer of Stone Manor, a sprawling estate that seemed to touch the clouds. Her heart raced as a butler led her through corridors adorned with priceless art. How strange that fate had brought her into the home of the woman who had destroyed her life. Somewhere in this house were the answers she needed, proof that Ariana had lied, evidence that could restore her reputation and career. The butler opened double doors to reveal a nursery larger than Jasmine's entire apartment. In the center, surrounded by untouched toys, sat little Ethan Stone, his sobs reduced to hiccuping whimpers. Maxwell stood awkwardly to the side, his confident boardroom demeanor nowhere to be found. "He's been like this since his mother left," Maxwell explained, running a hand through his disheveled hair. The divorce was complicated. Jasmine knelt beside Ethan, her professional instincts taking over. "Hi there," she said softly. "I'm Jasmine." The boy looked up, recognition flickering in his eyes. "You helped me," he whispered. "That's right," she smiled. "And I'd like to help you more if that's okay." Ethan studied her face with an intensity unusual for a child his age, then reached out one small hand to touch her cheek. "Pretty," he declared with the simple honesty of childhood. The gesture nearly broke her heart. Behind them, Maxwell cleared his throat. "I'll leave you two to get acquainted," he said, backing toward the door. His discomfort with emotional situations was painfully evident. "Actually," Jasmine called after him, "I'd like you to stay, Mr. Stone. Ethan needs to see that we can work together." Maxwell hesitated, then nodded, perching awkwardly on an ornate rocking chair in the corner. For the next hour, Jasmine engaged Ethan with simple games designed to build trust. Slowly, the boy emerged from his shell, his laughter filling the room like music. Each giggle seemed to physically transform Maxwell, softening the hard lines of his face. As she began working with Ethan, Jasmine discovered the depths of his trauma. The bitter custody battle had left scars, and Maxwell's emotional unavailability only deepened the wound. Each day brought new challenges, but also moments of breakthrough that made her heart swell. During her third visit, she found Ethan hiding in a closet, clutching a tattered photograph of his mother. His eyes were swollen from crying. She didn't say goodbye. He whimpered as Jasmine sat beside him in the darkness. "Daddy says she's not coming back." Jasmine chose her words carefully. "Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes when they're hurting. It doesn't mean they don't love you." "Do you have a mommy?" Ethan asked suddenly. The question caught her off guard. "I did," she answered softly. "She died when I was not much older than you." "Did she say goodbye?" Jasmine's throat tightened with unexpected emotion. "No, sweetheart. Sometimes there isn't time for goodbyes." Later, she found Maxwell waiting in the hallway, his expression suggesting he had overheard their conversation. "I didn't know about your mother," he said. "There's a lot you don't know about me," she replied. Her defenses rising, he stepped closer, his gaze intensifying. "I'd like to change that." What she hadn't anticipated was Maxwell. Behind his arrogant facade was a man drowning in grief and guilt. One night, after Ethan had finally fallen asleep, she found Maxwell on the terrace, staring into darkness. "I never wanted children," he admitted, not turning to look at her. Ariana insisted. "Then she left us both. Children know when they're unwanted." Jasmine replied carefully. He turned then, his eyes reflecting moonlight. "Is that what you think? That I don't want him? I think you don't know how to want him." A muscle tightened in Maxwell's jaw. "I wasn't ready. My own father was." He trailed off, his hands gripping the stone balustrade. "He taught me that emotional attachment was weakness. Business was all that mattered. And yet here you are, desperate to connect with your son," she observed. "That takes courage." Their eyes met, and something electric passed between them, recognition, perhaps. "Would you stay for dinner?" he asked suddenly. "Just the two of us, after Ethan's asleep." The invitation hung between them, laden with possibilities neither dared name. Weeks passed, and the dynamic between the three of them shifted. Ethan's smiles became more frequent, his nightmares less so. Maxwell began canceling meetings to attend playground outings. Jasmine found herself lingering after Ethan's bedtime, sharing glasses of wine with Maxwell on the terrace, their conversations stretching into the night. On a crisp autumn evening, Maxwell insisted on cooking dinner himself, banishing the chef from the kitchen. The result was a chaotic mess of pasta that was both undercooked and oversauced, but Jasmine had never enjoyed a meal more. They laughed as sauce splattered on Maxwell's designer shirt, the sound of their mirth echoing through rooms that had known too little joy. "You've changed him," Maxwell said as they cleaned up together, shoulders occasionally brushing in the intimate space of the kitchen. "Ethan, he's happy." "Children are resilient," she replied, passing him a plate to dry. "They just need consistency, boundaries, and unconditional love." "And you've changed me too," he added quietly. The confession seemed to surprise him as much as her. "You're different from anyone I've ever met," Maxwell told her, their fingers accidentally brushing as he handed her a glass. "You see people, not opportunities. A skill that's cost me everything," she replied, wondering if she dared tell him the truth about his ex-wife's vendetta against her. Before she could decide, Maxwell's phone rang. His expression darkened as he answered. "Ariana," he said, stepping away from Jasmine. "No, you can't see him tomorrow. The agreement says—" He stopped listening. "That's blackmail." Jasmine felt cold dread seep into her bones as Maxwell ended the call. "She's coming tomorrow," he said flatly, "and she's bringing her lawyers." That night, Jasmine couldn't sleep. She wandered the halls of the mansion, eventually finding herself in Maxwell's study. On impulse, she began searching through his files, looking for anything related to Ariana's lawsuit against her. What she found instead was far more damning. Emails proving that Ariana had fabricated evidence in multiple lawsuits, including Jasmine's. But there was more. Documentation showing Maxwell had known about it all along. Her hands trembled as realization dawned. He had known who she was from the beginning. "Finding what you need." Maxwell's voice came from the doorway, startling her. "You knew," she whispered, holding up the papers. "You knew what she did to me, and you said nothing." "I needed to protect my son," he replied, his expression unreadable. "I needed to know if you were here for revenge." "And what's your verdict?" she challenged, heart pounding. He moved closer, the distance between them charged with unspoken tension. "I think we're both looking for redemption." "Why keep these?" she asked, gesturing to the damning documents. "You could be implicated too." Maxwell's gaze didn't waver. "Insurance. And perhaps a conscience I didn't know I had until you walked into my life." The confession hung between them, altering something fundamental in their relationship. Maxwell took another step forward, close enough now that Jasmine could feel the warmth radiating from him. His hand reached up, hesitating before gently tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I've spent my life building walls," he murmured. "You and Ethan have dismantled them completely." Their first kiss wasn't planned, a collision of mutual need and unexpected longing. His arms encircled her waist, drawing her against his chest as if she belonged there. For a breathless moment, Jasmine forgot everything, her ruined career, her fears, the impending confrontation with Ariana. There was only this: the taste of wine on his lips, the solid strength of his embrace, the whispered promise of something she had never dared hope for. Morning brought Ariana Stone to the mansion, a tornado in designer heels. Her perfectly manicured hand froze mid-air when she spotted Jasmine playing with Ethan in the garden. "What is He doing here?" Ariana hissed at Maxwell. "Do you have any idea who that woman is?" "I know exactly who she is," Maxwell replied calmly. "The question is, do you want everyone else to know who you are?" Ariana's face paled as Maxwell revealed the evidence of her fabricated lawsuits. "You wouldn't dare expose me," she whispered. "You'd be implicated too." "I'm prepared to face the consequences," he said, glancing at Jasmine. "Are you?" The confrontation that followed was explosive. Ethan, frightened by his mother's screams, ran to Jasmine, clinging to her legs. The gesture wasn't lost on anyone present, especially Ariana. "You've turned my son against me," she accused. "No," Jasmine said quietly, lifting Ethan into her arms. "You did that yourself." As Ariana's lawyers huddled in urgent conference, Maxwell pulled Jasmine aside. "I need to tell you something before this goes further," he said urgently. "I've fallen in love with you. It wasn't part of any plan. But if you want to walk away after this, I'll understand." Before she could respond, Ariana approached them, defeat evident in her posture. "I'll drop everything," she said coldly. "The custody battle, the lawsuits, all of it. On one condition." "She leaves," she pointed at Jasmine. "Choose Maxwell, your son or this woman." Time seemed to stop as Maxwell looked between his son, still in Jasmine's arms, and the woman who had somehow healed them both. The choice before him was impossible: his child's stability, or the woman he'd come to love. "There's no choice to make," he finally said. "Ethan needs both of us." "Then you'll lose everything," Ariana threatened. "I'll make sure of it," What none of them expected was Ethan's small voice piercing the tension. "Mommy doesn't love me," he said simply. "Jasmine does." The truth, spoken with a child's innocence, hung in the air between them. Ariana's carefully constructed facade cracked, revealing the pain beneath her anger. "I never wanted to be a mother," she admitted, tears streaming down her face. "I wanted the idea of it, the image, but not the reality." She looked at Jasmine, really looked at her for the first time. "He is better with you." In the silence that followed, Ariana's lawyer whispered urgently in her ear. She nodded, composed herself, and turned back to face them. "These are my terms," she said, her voice steadier now. "Full custody to Maxwell. I'll withdraw all pending lawsuits, including those against Dr. Williams. In exchange, I want a clean break, no alimony, no ongoing financial obligations beyond a trust for Ethan's education." "And what about visitation?" Jasmine asked, surprising herself by speaking. Ariana considered the question, her eyes lingering on her son's face. "Quarterly visits, supervised, at least until—" She trailed off, then squared her shoulders. "Until I've had time to work on myself." Maxwell looked to Jasmine, silently seeking her input. She nodded, understanding that despite everything, Ethan deserved the chance to know his mother, the real woman beneath the perfectly crafted exterior. "Agreed," Maxwell said, extending his hand to Ariana. As the lawyers drafted documents in Maxwell's office, Jasmine took Ethan to the garden, giving the former spouses space to say their own goodbyes. The boy picked dandelions, blowing their seeds into the wind with innocent wishes. "Is Mommy going away again?" he asked suddenly. "Yes," Jasmine answered honestly. "But this time, she'll say goodbye properly, and she'll come back to visit you sometimes." Ethan considered this, his small brow furrowed in concentration. "Will you go away too?" Jasmine knelt to his level, cupping his face in her hands. "Not if I can help it, sweetheart. Not ever." Later, after Ariana had left and Ethan was tucked into bed, Maxwell found Jasmine in the library. Without a word, he handed her a thick folder. "What's this?" she asked. "Everything you need to clear your name and restore your license," he replied. "I've already contacted the medical board. They're expecting your appeal." Tears filled her eyes as she leafed through the documents, affidavits, retraction statements, financial records proving Ariana's deception. "Why would you do this?" Maxwell took her hands in his. "Because I'm tired of building my happiness on other people's pain. Because you've shown me what real strength looks like." He drew her closer. "Because I want you in our lives, in my life, not as an employee or even as Ethan's caretaker, but as—" "As what?" she whispered. His answer was a kiss that promised 1,000 tomorrows. 6 months later, Jasmine stood in the same restaurant where it all began, watching as Maxwell helped Ethan blow out the candles on his 4th birthday cake. Her career had been restored, Ariana had moved to Europe, and somehow, against all odds, they had become a family. The road hadn't been entirely smooth. Jasmine had insisted on maintaining her independence, reopening her practice, rather than becoming financially dependent on Maxwell. The press had a field day with their relationship, dredging up the lawsuit and speculating wildly about Jasmine's motives. Even Ethan had struggled occasionally, confused by the changing dynamics and still processing his mother's absence. But they had weathered each storm together, learning and growing stronger with each challenge. Tonight, surrounded by friends who had stood by her through her darkest days, Jasmine felt a sense of peace she had thought forever lost. "Thinking about how far we've come?" Maxwell asked, sliding an arm around her waist. "Thinking about how close we came to never finding each other," she replied. He pulled her closer, pressing his lips to her temple. "Some people are meant to collide," he whispered, "even if they start as enemies." As Ethan ran to her, arms outstretched and face glowing with happiness, Jasmine realized that sometimes the deepest wounds lead us exactly where we need to be. The boy who once couldn't stop crying now couldn't stop smiling, and neither could she. "Family photo," someone called, and as they gathered together, Jasmine knew that this imperfect, unexpected love was what healing truly meant. "Make a wish, my love," Maxwell whispered in her ear as cameras flashed around them. Jasmine looked at the two faces beside her, one small and innocent, the other strong and tender, and realized she had nothing left to wish for. The universe had already given her everything she needed, wrapped in the most unexpected package, a second chance, disguised as a crisis in a crowded restaurant. "I already have my wish," she replied, her heart full to bursting. "I'm living it." If you enjoyed this emotional journey of healing and unexpected love, please like and share this story. Comment below with your thoughts on second chances and the families we create along the way. Subscribe for more heartwarming stories that remind us how life's greatest challenges often lead to our greatest blessings.